Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies, everybody. And the Phils are ready to start the NLCS. They're the home team. They're taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. And that's a young, fun team with some talented players. How dangerous are they? And tonight in Game 1, can Zack Wheeler continue how dominant he's been lately? Finally, why being the home team is huge for the Philadelphia Phillies in this series. We'll break it all down on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Locked On Phillies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that good stuff. You're going to want to get every piece of content we put out during this playoff run. Red October has been awesome so far. You're not going to want to miss it. So again, rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube. It really helps me out. It helps you get episode notifications, and it costs you nothing. It takes like 2 seconds. Why not do it, right? It's a win-win-win. So go ahead and check that out. Of course, you can check out some of my other content on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio, NBC Sports Philadelphia on the television side, all that good stuff. But let's jump into Locked On Phillies today. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I'm sure Gametime is cleaning up right now because I've had so many texts from people asking me, do you know how I can get tickets? Do you know where I can go to get tickets to the Phillies, Diamondbacks, NLCS games coming up at Citizens Bank Park? And I'm like, yo, hit up my friends at Gametime. Go ahead and check that out because Gametime is a great place to go ahead and do that. And this is an awesome opportunity to go see some of the biggest games of the year for the Philadelphia Phillies. We all hope that there's another series after this one that's even bigger. But the Diamondbacks are a tough team, and the Phillies are going to have to deal with that. They've got to go out and they've got to play a really hot young team that's taken out the Brewers, a division winner, the Dodgers, a division winner in their own division, and now they're facing down the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, the Diamondbacks can absolutely be dangerous, and where it starts for them are a couple of guys, right? Just looking at an overview of this team, Zack Gallen is my number one concern. He's a guy that can steal a game or two in a series from you. He's been really, really good. He's a local kid. I played with him growing up. I know the makeup of Zack Gallen. He is going to be ready for the moment. Like, this guy has been playing big level baseball since he was, I don't know, we were, 12 or 13? The first time I heard about Zack Gallen when I was playing for Tri-State Arsenal here, like, he's been prepared for this moment. And this season, he's been outstanding. He's been great in the playoffs as well. He's got a 2-0 playoff record with a 3.18 ERA and a 1.32 whip. So he's going to give you a little bit of trouble. The good news is he's a righty. So you can run your lefty-heavy lineup, which I think is the Phillies' better lineup. But he's a guy to definitely keep an eye on. Zack Gallen, when we were talking about the potential of the Phillies playing the Diamondbacks in the wild card series, which now obviously much higher stakes, but the upside was the Diamondbacks had to use Zack Gallen late in the season, in the regular season that is, to help them make their way into the playoffs as the final wild card seed. Well, the Phillies wouldn't have had to face him then, but now they do have to face Zack Gallen. They have to knock off the ace of the other team, and it's definitely something that's going to be a challenge for the Philadelphia Phillies tonight. Now, the Phillies have had great starting pitching as well, so you can counter it, but Zack Gallen is definitely someone who deserves the respect of Philadelphia Phillies fans. And on top of that, Merrill Kelly is going to throw game 2. He's been really good as well. He's 1-0 this postseason with a 0.00 ERA, a .79 whip, in 6 1/3 innings pitched. I mean, yeah, he's been good. Those are the guys that you need to keep an eye on in the Arizona Diamondbacks pitching rotation. Now, the good news is with the Diamondbacks, their rotation isn't quite as deep as the Philadelphia Phillies. You got to understand, Michael Lorenzen threw a no-hitter for the Phillies. He hasn't started yet in the postseason. Christopher Sanchez was outstanding this year. He hasn't gotten a start. Ranger Suarez has had 2 starts. how quickly I forget game 4. No, Ranger Suarez has had 2 starts, but you still have Taijuan Walker, who had a lot of wins this year for you as this starting pitcher who's available. Like, the Phillies have a lot of options, but they don't really need to use all of them. You could still go with a shortened rotation. You could still go Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, and figure out what you're doing with 4. If 4 is a bullpen game, if it's a Lorenzen or Sanchez or Taijuan Walker start, like you've got those opportunities to go ahead and take that out. I want to make sure real quick, because the roster came out, what pitchers the Philadelphia Phillies have on their roster for the NLCS, because I have a feeling that Walker wasn't listed. I just want to double check this. Let's go ahead and see. Right-handed pitchers. Yeah, Taijuan Walker is on the roster. I just wanted to double check that. Christopher Sanchez is as well. Michael Lorenzen is as well. So you got a lot of options as far as guys who can make starts for you. The Diamondbacks, though, the dangerous part of them, there's a couple guys on the Diamondbacks, too, offensively that you need to be worried about. Following tonight's game, by the way, I'm going to do a crossover with Locked On Diamondbacks. We're going to go ahead and talk everything through. And we're going to get a better breakdown. Hopefully, it'll be me laughing in their face about a win, but we'll see. Of course, I'm going to be respectful about it, but, come on, we're Philly fans. If we're going to win, we're going to talk about it. So I'm hoping we're doing that after a win tonight, but some guys that you need to keep an eye on. Just looking at the numbers from the regular season, Christian Walker is certainly a problem. He had 33 home runs, a 258 average, and 103 RBIs. He led the team in RBIs. He led the team in homers. Now, when you stack that up against Kyle Schwarber's 47 home runs and Bryce Harper's 293 average in the regular season, Nick Castellanos 106 RBIs, the Phillies offense is better than the Arizona Diamondbacks. They are, but Christian Walker is a problem, and Corbin Carroll is a big problem. Now, Corbin Carroll, young player, but he's a star in his own right. If you can shut him down, you've got a situation where you can make that offense anemic. For the Arizona Diamondbacks. They have some other nice players. I mean, we know Ketel Marte, we know Tommy Pham, Gurriel. You're going to see Longoria again. Of course, you remember Longoria, part of that 2008 Rays team that lost to the Phillies in the World Series. Now he's coming back years later for revenge. You got a lot of guys to focus on there. I mean, the offense by them, it's not anything crazy, but they do have 13 home runs so far. They've been hot. Like when you look at the names, you're like, okay, solid offensive team, not an elite offensive team. And then you see that through the games they played in the postseason, they have 13 home runs. They took care of the Dodgers, swept them. They took care of the Brewers, swept them. I mean, this team hasn't lost in the postseason yet. That's something interesting, right? Because that shows you how hot they are. But it talks to what I've talked about with the Braves, adversity. The Philadelphia Phillies have faced adversity. They faced a tougher team in the Atlanta Braves than what the Arizona Diamondbacks saw in the Los Angeles Dodgers. And while the Diamondbacks went through it in the regular season, they're not as tested as this Phillies team. This Phillies team, the core of this Phillies team, has gone through it 2 years in a row now. They know what it feels like to have a slow start to the regular season. They know what it feels like to battle through injuries. They know what it feels like to play tough playoff series. And they know what it feels like to play in the NLCS. This Diamondbacks team, they don't really know that yet. They got a couple veterans mixed in, but mostly it's guys that have not made it to this level before. The Phils were here just last year. So I still like the Phillies in this series a lot. And how could I not? The Phillies are probably, for my money, they might be the best team left playing. And there are two good teams over in the American League. The Rangers just knocked off the Astros 2-0 last night to start off the ALCS. You're going to play a team from Texas if you make it to the World Series, and quality organizations. And the Diamondbacks, too, a quality team. They were a team that played a tough series against you when you went out there for 4 games earlier on in the year. Now, the Phillies won 3 of those 4 all out in Arizona. So you got to believe that they have the advantage being the home team in this series. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later. But how dangerous are the Diamondbacks? As dangerous as any other team in a championship series. I don't care what they look like on paper. I don't care how hot the Phillies are playing. I don't care about any of that. You have to treat your opposing team with the respect they've earned by being here. The Padres were not the best team in the National League last year when you played them in the NLCS. I mean, they still made it interesting. Teams are going to make it interesting in the playoffs. It's very rare that you just see a dominance of a series, but also that's what Arizona's done against 2 higher quality opponents than themselves. They have faith, and a young team with faith they can get stuff done is a dangerous team. The keys are they're very star-driven on offense, and they're very top-heavy in the rotation. But the stars on their offense and the top-heavy part of their rotation, might just be enough to make this series a problem for the Philadelphia Phillies. So how dangerous are the Diamondbacks? I don't look at them the same way I looked at the Braves, where it's like you're playing this juggernaut. But they're still a team that could knock you off. This isn't a lock series win for the Phillies by any stretch of the imagination. No, this is the NL Championship Series. So when you go out, every time you take advantage of something, it's absolutely huge. And I think the number one way you take care of this, right, is you shut down their offense. You limit the long ball and you shut down their offense, because eventually this Phillies offense is good enough to get to their pitching staff. The bullpen for the Arizona Diamondbacks, not insanely good, like solid enough, but they're not doing anything crazy as far as the bullpen's concerned. I mean, you look at some of the names out there and it's just like, it's nothing all that special out of the pen. It's not. You're not seeing Hall of Famers. You're not seeing big-time all-star names out of the bullpen. So you have the opportunity there if you can get through their starting pitching. But how do you do that? Well, the biggest thing is you need your starting pitching to continue to be great and continue to limit the opposing offense. And coming up, we're going to talk about Zack Wheeler and how he can continue his dominance by starting off game one with an absolute gem of a performance. So we'll go ahead and get into that as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First, though, I want to tell you about my friends over at Gametime, okay? Listen, you shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, okay? This is the time of year, if you're a Phillies fan, where you're like, everybody and your uncle is texting you like, hey, either can you buy me tickets? Can you find me tickets? I have these tickets. I want to sell them. And it's like, I got a text from a buddy. 3 standing room only tickets for $600. That might be like, that's insane. Well, guess what? It might be, it might not be. You check with Gametime. Check out what their prices are. Go ahead and get your tickets from Gametime, because they've got a 110% money back guarantee that your section and row, you're getting the best possible price. If you beat it, they'll give you 110% of your money back. And you know what you're getting when you buy with Gametime. Plus, it takes like 2 seconds. It's super easy. You don't have to text your uncle you haven't seen since Thanksgiving. No, you just get it in a couple of taps from Gametime. The tickets go right to your phone. You don't have to sift through your email. I mean, it's a great way to go to the games. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, game one is tonight. You've got an 8:07 p.m. first pitch, and it's Zack Wheeler against Zach Gallen, the matchup of the Zacks. You can listen to every pitch of it on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you'll be able to pull up everything there. So go ahead and give some love to our friends over at SiriusXM, a great way to listen to the game, and you'll be able to hear everything you need to hear about the Phillies, Diamondbacks, game one of the NLCS. I mean, biggest game of the year so far. That kind of goes without saying. But yes, the question, the biggest one here, is how does Zack Wheeler continue to perform? He's been so good in game ones, like outstandingly good, like historically good, like one of the best pitchers all time in game ones of a playoff series. And listen to his numbers in total so far through the postseason. He's got a 1-0 win-loss record. He's got a 2.08 ERA. He's got a 0.69 whip. Nice. And he's thrown 13 innings. Like, that's a sample size of high-leverage baseball where Zack Wheeler has been dominant. The Diamondbacks, their offense, yeah, it looks strong right now. It does. They hit 4 home runs in a single damn inning against the Dodgers. But the Phillies just faced down the Braves, who have a much, much better offense over the course of the season than the Diamondbacks have shown. Doesn't mean they're playing their best right now, but we'll get to see in this matchup. Were the Braves just cold, or were the Phillies pitching staff that good? Because, man, everyone made big pitches for the Philadelphia Phillies, and it started with Zack Wheeler. That's the biggest thing. Now there's no more excuses of, oh, we had this layoff. We're rusty. This, that, and the other thing. No. You're playing a Diamondbacks team that's as hot, if not hotter, than you are. And a lot of people are starting to jump on the D-backs wagon. I think you're wrong. I think there's plenty of room on the Red October wagon, so hop on over here. But it's a great test for the Philadelphia Phillies to see if that is actually a narrative that needs to be talked about with the days off in between and everything like that. Maybe the Phillies can just go out here and dominate like they did with the best offense in baseball. Maybe you'll struggle, but it all starts with Zack Wheeler. If you can go out and get game one at home, that's super, super important. Like, remember, what was the one thing we talked about going into the Braves series as the underdog team? Find a way to steal one in Atlanta. And the Phillies were able to do that behind a great pitching performance by Ranger Suarez in the bullpen. And that shutout set the tone for the series. Game ones set the tone for the series. They're the wake-up call. You think the Houston Astros are feeling good about being down 1-0 and getting shut out in game one? No, advantage hugely to Texas in that one, especially considering that game was on the road. The Phillies cannot afford to do that. And Zack Wheeler has been as good as anybody in these spots. If you don't have faith in Zack Wheeler at this point, I don't know how you ever have faith in anything. I don't know how you have faith in your family, religion, your paycheck showing up every other Friday. Like, I don't know how you have faith in anything. It is death, taxes, Zack Wheeler in game ones. Those are the certainties in life that we've seen since he's been a Philadelphia Philly. And he's got the opportunity to continue to prove you right. Now, it doesn't mean he's guaranteed to throw well. I'm just saying that we have to believe he's going to, because he hasn't shown us anything else. This is not the up-downs of Aaron Nola's regular season, who, by the way, has also been outstanding in the postseason. But no, Zack Wheeler in these spots has been consistently good. And Zach Gallen in these spots, well, it's happened 2 times. You don't have as much of a sample size with Zach Gallen. And while his numbers look good, even as good as his numbers look with a 3.18 ERA and a 1.32 whip, they're not as good as Zack Wheeler. That's why tonight, you look at the predictions. Phillies, minus 170 on the money line with the betting odds. Vegas likes the Phils. ESPN Analytics, Phillies, 60.8% chance to win tonight. Now, the Braves had a couple times where they were like 50-something, 60-something% to win over the Phillies, and we see how that turned out. So that's not a guarantee, but the Phillies have the advantage in this one. They have the better top offensive players. They have the better top end of the rotation. They have the more proven roster. You have to go out there now and play as the favorite, the home team. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why that's huge for the Philadelphia Phillies and why I think they're comfortable in that spot. But Zack Wheeler is the number one guy so far in the series. That changes day to day. Like game to game, you have a new number one guy. But I'm thinking more often than not, it's probably going to be the starting pitcher, because the way the Phillies have dominated the postseason so far is the starting pitching. The bullpen has been outstanding, but as good as they've been, the starting pitching has been that much better. So Zack Wheeler's got to go out and dominate tonight and get you 1-0. If you're up 1-0, well, all the pressure's on Arizona. I mean, it already is. They got to come into Citizens Bank Park, and we're going to talk about them playing there. 8:07 p.m. tonight, Phillies, Diamondbacks, Wheeler, Gallen, Battle of the Zacks. You can check it out on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies. But again, I don't know how many more times I could say it. The offense, they're going to have their opportunities. I'd love to see Bryce Harper stay hot. He's probably going to. The guy's a cyborg. I would love to see Kyle Schwarber finally get going, hit a ball out of the yard. Nick Castellanos is playing like a man possessed. Does he stay hot? I mean, there's no reason to believe he won't. But to me, none of that matters if you don't get the job you need done out of Zack Wheeler tonight. So starts with a starting pitching in game one. And this is a huge, huge game to set the tone for the series. So we'll keep an eye on that. But coming up as we wrap up, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why being the home team is huge for the Phillies. And we're going to talk about something we've talked about all postseason long. Bedlam at the bank. We'll discuss as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. First, though, let me tell you about FanDuel, all right? October baseball is back. Oh, yes, it is. And the Phillies are still dancing, and you can make your postseason debut with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I don't know what you've been waiting for, but it's a keynote time of the year. Join FanDuel, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's win or lose. Maybe you bet $5 on the Diamondbacks tonight. They get smoked. Guess what? You're still getting your $200 in bonus bets so that you can place it on the Phillies the rest of the way like a smart bettor would. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to create your new account. Then you can get in on the action from the first pitch until the final out. Bet on everything from strikeouts to home runs to who will win the game. Oh, there's all kinds of different prop bets and stuff you can get. And if you don't want to wait the whole game to get a W, predict what will happen in the next at bat with quick bets. Think Bryce Harper's going to go yard? You probably get pretty good odds if you predict it correctly. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now. Step up to the plate this postseason with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, I'll remind you one more time, 8:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Phillies, Diamondbacks, showdown at the bank, game 1 of the NLCS. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast of that game on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies. And here's why it's great that the Phillies are the home team. Now, last year, the run was all underdog. They go to St. Louis and they win. They go to Atlanta and they win. They go to San Diego and they win. They go to Houston and they battle. But, that's the thing. They had to start each of these series on the road last year. This year, they were the home team in the wild card series against the Marlins. And you saw how dominant the Philadelphia Phillies were at that ballpark. The Phillies so far this postseason are 4-0 at their home ballpark. Now, the Diamondbacks haven't lost anywhere. But let me tell you something. Who have the Diamondbacks played? I asked this to my friend the other day. Diamondbacks played the Milwaukee Brewers. Not exactly the most raucous fan base. The Midwest just doesn't do it like us Northeast psychopaths. They don't. Sorry, folks. That's not the same environment. It's not. Then you go to LA and the Dodgers. And that stadium, half of that stadium is movie stars and celebrities and stuff like that. Yeah, there are some passionate Dodgers fans, but it's not the same type of feeling as what you get at Citizens Bank Park. We don't have celebrities. We have 40,000 plus crazy people that are showing up to rip your head off. And that's what Philadelphia brings that the Diamondbacks have not focused on yet, that they have not experienced yet. They're not ready for this. The Braves weren't ready for it, and they had a sample size. They felt it last year. They knew what they were walking into, and they didn't get the job done. They didn't even come close to getting the job done in game 1. And game 2, game 3, the game 1 at Citizens Bank Park. And the final game of the series, game 4, made it close, but that crowd had an impact. They willed the Phillies to victory. You did. If you were there, you had an impact on the game. If you're going tonight, you have an impact on the game. If you're going to be in the general area of the stadium, just start screaming in its direction. I want that place to be as loud as possible tonight. The Phillies, some people might say, how comfortable are they being the favorite? Well, you saw it against the Marlins, and they dominated them. The Marlins, they chased down the Diamondbacks at the end of the season for that second wildcard spot. So, yeah, that's a team that was better over the course of the regular season. They got the hands. So the Diamondbacks, you can come in here and get it too. As young as this team is and as hungry as they are, sometimes that can be a benefit, right? You don't know what you don't know. It might make you play better against competition that's better than you. You don't know enough to be nervous. I'll tell you what, you can be as dumb as a brick, as oblivious to the situation as a brick wall is. But when you walk into Citizens Bank Park and you hear how loud it is, and you can't hear yourself think, and you can't communicate with your teammates, and you can't talk to your manager, and you can't hear anything over the loud roar of 40,000 plus people at Citizens Bank Park, it doesn't matter how young and naive they are and how much they believe they can win. There's no way to escape the pressure of Citizens Bank Park, and it's why it's huge you're the home team. If you can go to Arizona up 2-0, this series is essentially over. And the Philadelphia Phillies, well, it starts with game 1, but they have a golden opportunity to set the tone. Remind them why the Phillies are favored, why they had a better regular season, and why you just knocked off 2 division rivals. I can't wait, man. I really can't wait. I'm fired up for this. I'm excited to see what the bank sounds like tonight. I'm so glad we have more Red October because I'll never get tired of the moments being made. There are more dramatic moments to come. And the Philadelphia Phillies, I got to be honest, I couldn't feel better about where they're at right now. I'm still going to be nervous because the best you can feel in the postseason is that you have an advantage. The second you're sure of something is the second you get knocked out. So I'm not going to be too brash with any predictions or anything and say, oh, no way the Phillies lose. No, obviously there's a way they lose. It's a postseason. Anything can happen. But I feel as good about the Phillies as I can. They're pitching well. They're hitting well. They're fielding well. The bullpen's been good. Rob Thompson's been making great decisions. They've got everything they need. Now, for the second straight year, go out there and take the damn NL Pennant for your own. Hang another banner. It starts tonight. It starts with game 1. It starts with an awesome performance from Zack Wheeler, and I believe he can get it done. So there you have it. By the way, one thing, just to keep note, I know some people brought this up. Rhys Hoskins potentially coming back. He's not on the roster for the NLCS. We'll not see Rhys Hoskins this series, potentially in the World Series if you get there. I would love to see a moment where he makes the roster, even if he doesn't play. So you're also playing for the chance for one of your number one clubhouse guys and one of the favorite players on this team to get a chance to maybe not even make an impact, but be a part of this going forward. Not that he's not, but you know what I mean. It'd be very emotional if you get to a point where Rhys Hoskins can be introduced as a roster member of this team after tearing his ACL in spring training. All of this stuff is what you're playing for. The pressure's on, but the Phillies are ready to deal with it, and so are a packed house of their screaming lunatic fans. I can't wait. I'm ready to go insane. It's going to be a fun game tonight, and hopefully we're talking about a win. Again, remember, crossover episode. We'll be recording as soon as the game's done tonight. So go ahead and get that taken care of for you. I'll post the episode tonight, get that all squared away, and hopefully we're talking about a win. But you'll have that tomorrow to look forward to as well. It's going to be a fun one. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for checking us out. Appreciate it. Again, please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I'll talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.